My name is Diane Stevenson, and I'm 32 years old. If you saw my life today, you'd never guess that to my parents, I've been dead for years. Right now, I live in a sunny little town on the opposite side of the globe from where I was born. I teach English at a local school. I come home to a cozy house that always smells like coffee and crayons because my 5-year-old twins are obsessed with drawing on every surface they can reach. My husband, Daniel, is the kind of gentle I didn't know existed in men. His family treats me like I've always belonged with them. To my in-laws, I'm just Diane, their slightly anxious, foreign daughter-in-law who talks too fast when she's excited and cries during sappy commercials. They don't know that, to my own family, I'm a monster who got away with it. I wish I could say I'm exaggerating. I was 20 when I met Liam. He was my ex-boyfriend by the time everything exploded, but back then he was just the funny guy in my college class. Messy hair, loud laugh, the kind of person who always seemed to know everyone in the room. My parents adored him immediately. Finally, my mom said once, a boy who can keep up with your moods. What she meant was, finally, a boy who looks good in family photos. Liam cheated on me. That's where this really starts. I found the messages by accident, his phone buzzing on my desk while he was in the shower. Just a preview of a conversation with a girl I'd never heard of. Can't wait to see you again. She's so clingy, I swear. The rest was worse. I confronted him. Of course I did. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear myself. But I laid it all out. What I'd seen, how long it had clearly been going on, the way he'd used me as a cover. At first he tried to deny it. Then, when I wouldn't back down, something ugly crossed his face. It was like watching a mask slip. "You're not going to ruin my life over this," he said quietly. "You have no idea what you're doing." I thought he meant our relationship. I thought he meant his reputation. I didn't realize he meant mine. 2 days later, I was sitting in a police station, staring at a wall while they read out an accusation I couldn't even process at first. Liam had gone to the police and told them I'd raped him. It didn't even make sense. The story he told was full of holes. But that didn't matter. Allegations like that don't need to make sense to stick. They just need to exist. They took my clothes, my phone, my freedom for a while. They put me in custody while they investigated. I can still feel the cold bench under me, hear the way the metal door shut like a final judgment. I remember trying to breathe and feeling like the air was too thick. My parents came. For 1 second, just one, I thought, oh, thank God. Mom will hug me. Dad will say there's been a mistake. They'll fight for me. Instead, my father stood on the other side of the glass. His jaw clenched so tight, a vein pulsed in his temple. "What did you do?" he asked. I told them I didn't do anything. I told them Liam was lying because I caught him cheating. I told them there was no evidence. "That's what guilty people say," my mother whispered. Her eyes were shiny, but she didn't cry. She just looked embarrassed, like I'd spilled wine on her favorite dress. Later, when the case was dropped for insufficient evidence, my parents didn't celebrate. They didn't even look relieved. My father shook the officer's hand and said, "We'll deal with her ourselves." To them, I hadn't been exonerated. I'd just got lucky. They cut me off. Completely. I lost my home, my allowance, my place at the table. My mother told relatives I'd gone off the rails. My father told me I wasn't welcome back under their roof. "You're not our daughter anymore," he said. "You made your choice." My friends faded away. Some stopped replying. Some sent messages that were worse than silence. I don't know what to believe, Diane. I'm sorry. My college barred me from attending lectures on campus. They emailed me coursework and allowed me to sit exams in a separate room for everyone's comfort. I became a ghost walking through a life I'd built with my own hands, suddenly not allowed to touch anything. The only person who didn't disappear was my best friend, Hannah. She slipped me cash in an envelope, let me sleep on her couch, snuck me leftover food from her job at a cafe. When my father found out she was still in contact with me, he told her she was enabling a predator. We both cried that night, quietly, in the dark. Eventually, I realized something brutal. If I stayed, I would either drown or let them convince me I was what they said I was. So I ran. I took whatever work I could get. Community jobs, cleaning, stocking shelves at night. I saved every coin. I lived in a room so small I could touch both walls if I lay diagonally on the bed. And then one night, I looked at my ID and felt sick. My name was theirs. It was on my school certificates, my birth records, my father's tax files. Every time I saw it, I remembered his eyes in that visitation booth, full of disgust. Changing my name felt like erasing myself, but keeping it felt like chains around my ankles. So I changed it, legally, completely. I became Diane Stevenson on paper, and for some reason, that small act loosened something in my chest. It didn't fix anything, but it gave me a tiny illusion that maybe, just maybe, I could step into a life that wasn't already ruined. With my new name, I applied for university again. Teaching. It was stupid, honestly. I was already drowning in debt. I could barely afford rent and instant noodles. But the idea of standing in front of a classroom one day, of being someone's safe adult, kept me going. I finished the degree, somehow. And when I saw a job posting for an English teacher on the opposite side of the world, I didn't hesitate. If my old country wanted me gone so badly, I would grant them their wish. The first few years abroad were a blur of unfamiliar streets, strange languages, and tiny victories. My apartment was small and loud and cheap, but it was mine. The kids in my classes were chaotic and kind, and sometimes when they laughed, I remembered I still knew how to smile. I met Daniel at the school. He was patient from the start. Not in a cheesy rom-com way, just genuinely careful. If he reached for my hand and I flinched, he didn't make a joke out of it or get offended. He just gave me space and tried again another day. When he leaned in to kiss me for the first time, I startled so hard I knocked over my drink. My heart raced like I was back in that interrogation room. He pulled back immediately. Hey, it's okay, he said, hands up like I was a frightened animal. We don't have to do anything you're not ready for, ever. He never asked for details, not at first. He just waited until I was the one who brought it up in a shaking voice at 2 a.m., staring at a crack in his ceiling. He believed me in 10 minutes more than my parents did in my entire life. Years passed. We got married. My in-laws welcomed me, like I'd always been part of their family. They introduced me to neighbors as our daughter from overseas. Our twins were born, a girl and a boy, and I swore to myself that nothing and no one would ever make them feel how I once felt. For the first time since I was accused, I allowed myself to think, maybe the worst is over. Then, last night, there was a knock at my door. I was on the living room floor with my son, pretending to care about a video game while he made his character jump off cliffs on our PlayStation and cackled. Daniel and our daughter were in the garden, trying to coax strawberries out of plants that really didn't like this climate. The knock was sharp, 3 quick raps. Pause it a second, buddy, I said. He groaned but obeyed. I wiped my hands on my jeans. Why were they sweating? And went to the door. I opened it, and my heart stopped. My father was standing on my porch. Older, grayer, same eyes. For a second, the world went quiet. I could hear my pulse in my ears. He smiled weakly. He said my old first name, the one I'd buried. It's really you. I slammed the door so hard the frame shook. Mom, my son's voice was small behind me. Mom, what? It's okay, I said, but my voice came out strangled. It's fine, sweetheart. Go to your room, okay? I'll be right there. Just go. His eyes went wide. I never talked to him like that. He nodded and backed away. My father started knocking again, louder this time. Please, he called through the door. Please, just talk to me. My knees buckled. I slid down the door and pressed my forehead to it, shaking. Daniel burst in from the garden, our daughter on his hip. Diane, what happened? I heard... Take them upstairs, I choked out. Please, just take them. Put on a movie. Don't come down until I say. He took one look at my face and didn't argue. A minute later, the house was quiet except for the knocking and my father's voice, muffled through wood. Diane, I know what happened. I know you didn't do it. Please, open the door. I wanted to scream, to tear the door off its hinges, to never see him again. Instead, I did what I always do when I'm falling apart. I breathed. In, out, until my fingers stopped tingling. Daniel came back down, slow, like approaching a wounded animal. Do you want me to make him leave? He asked softly. I swallowed. My throat hurt. He says he knows I didn't do it. Daniel's jaw clenched. He knew that the whole time. He just decided not to care. I closed my eyes. There was a little girl inside me, still hoping her dad would show up and say he was sorry. There was a woman who remembered being thrown out like trash. I need to know what he thinks he knows, I whispered. But I don't want him near the kids. Then let me open this door, Daniel said. You don't owe that man anything. Not politeness, not eye contact. If you talk to him, it's on your terms, not his. I nodded. Daniel opened the door just enough to step outside, blocking my father's view of the hallway. Who are you? My father asked. I'm Diane's husband, Daniel said. His voice was calm, but I could hear the steel in it. And whatever you have to say, you're going to say it carefully. There was a long pause. I'm her father, he replied. And I I came to tell her that I was wrong. I found proof. She didn't do what we thought she did. Her ex lied. I know that now. My stomach dropped. Proof. All those years, all that silence. Now he decides he knows? Daniel glanced back at me over his shoulder. I knew he was asking a question without words. Do you want this? I didn't know. I only knew one thing. After everything they did to me, if my father had crossed oceans to find me, my decision, whatever it was, would change my life again. Let him in, I said hoarsely, but just him, and keep the kid's door closed. Daniel hesitated, then stepped aside. My father crossed the threshold into the life he'd never wanted to believe I could build without him. And I prepared myself to finally hear why he'd only started believing me after I stopped needing him. My father stood inside my house like he was stepping into a museum exhibit, slow, quiet, almost reverent, as if he wasn't sure he deserved to breathe the same air as me. I didn't sit. I didn't offer him water. I just stood with my arms crossed, my back against the wall, close enough to the hallway so I could run upstairs if I heard my kids stir. He noticed. Of course he noticed. You're afraid of me, he said softly. I never wanted that. I almost laughed. Afraid of him? Maybe once, but not now. I'm not afraid, I said. I'm cautious. That's something you taught me when you threw me out. He flinched like I'd struck him. Daniel stood a few feet behind me, silent but solid, a wall I could lean on without ever touching. I felt his presence like a shield. My father cleared his throat. May I explain? I didn't give him permission, but I didn't stop him either. He took it as a yes. I saw his phone, he said. Your ex, Liam. I saw messages he sent to a friend, messages where he said he lied, that he'd ruined your life out of guilt and panic, that he wanted to take it back but didn't know how. My stomach tightened. Of course, the proof came from the man who destroyed me. Of course, my father hadn't doubted him until now. How did you even get access to Liam's phone? I asked. Why were you anywhere near his phone? My father hesitated. He came to me. He needed help clearing data on it. I've always been good with technology, so... Daniel stepped forward, brows pulled tight. Why were you still in contact with the man who lied about your daughter? Why would she ever believe you when you couldn't even cut him off? My father's mouth opened, then closed. He had no answer. He wiped his hands on his pants nervously, like he used to before giving presentations at work. I didn't want to believe he was lying, he admitted. It was easier to think he was telling the truth. It meant your mother and I hadn't misjudged anything. It meant we weren't at fault. Ah, there it was. It was easier, I repeated, to abandon me. His voice cracked. I was wrong. He stepped closer. I stepped back. He froze. I came because I needed you to know, he continued. I believe you. I always should have believed you. I am so, so sorry, Diane. The apology landed on the floor like a piece of broken glass. Sharp, dangerous, useless. I studied him. This man had disowned me, blocked me from the family plan, bad-mouthed me to relatives, thrown me into the street with nothing, never once checked whether I survived. And now he thought a few tearful sentences could resurrect what he'd murdered years ago. Why now? I asked quietly. He blinked. What do you mean? Why come now? Why after I rebuilt my life, after I married, after I had children, after I changed my name and moved across the world? Why now? His face crumpled. Because I miss you. Daniel inhaled sharply, like the words physically offended him. I felt nothing. Absolutely nothing. I'm not the girl you threw away, I said. That person died the day you called me a disgrace. He tears pooled in his eyes. Diane, you didn't come because you believe me, I said coldly. You came because Liam finally gave you an excuse to stop feeling guilty. He swallowed hard. I'd always imagined this moment. All those nights in my tiny apartment eating instant noodles and staring at the ceiling, I imagined yelling, screaming, crying. Instead, the only thing I felt was clarity. I didn't come to hurt you, he said. Good, I replied, because you can't. Not anymore. He tried a different tactic. Your mother doesn't know I found you, he said. She didn't take the news well. Good, I said again. He looked shaken. Daniel slid his hand into mine behind my back, hidden from my father's view, giving me something to tether myself to. I want to make this right, my father whispered. I want to be your father again. You can't, I said. You stopped being that when you chose a liar over your daughter. He wiped his face with shaking hands. Then tell me what you want me to do. Anything. I'll do anything. For a moment, I almost pitied him. Almost. I took a long breath. What I want, I said softly, is distance. His face collapsed. I continued. I don't want you in my life. I don't want you near my children. I don't want you speaking to my husband. I don't want updates from home. I don't want explanations. I don't want anything. He stared at me, eyes glossy. I came across the world for you. You should have done that when I was living on a couch, I replied. Not now. He opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. I can change. I don't need you to change, I said, voice steady. I just need you gone. A long silence settled between us. Finally, he nodded, tiny, broken. Will you at least tell me how you are? He asked quietly. I shook my head. I don't owe you the happiness you forfeited. His breath hitched. He covered his mouth like he was holding back a sob. I'll leave tomorrow, he managed. No, Daniel said, stepping forward. You'll leave now. My father looked at me. I didn't look away. He turned slowly, walked to the door, and paused with his hand on the frame. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry, Diane. This time I didn't answer. He stepped outside. Daniel shut the door behind him. I didn't cry. I didn't collapse. I just stood there, empty in the best possible way, like a room finally cleared of smoke. Later that night, as I tucked my twins into bed, my son looked up at me sleepily. Mom, he whispered. Who was at the door? I kissed his forehead. Just someone who doesn't matter anymore, I said. And for the first time in years, I meant every word. I thought rejecting my father would be the end of it. It wasn't. For a few months, life felt steady again. Calm. I taught my students. I packed lunches. I kissed Daniel goodnight every evening and fell asleep with the twins curled on each side like warm little anchors. I didn't even think about my old country. Then one morning, too early, too quiet, I woke up to Daniel sitting at the edge of our bed, his phone in his hand and his jaw tight. Diane, he whispered, I think you should see this. He handed me his phone. It was a message from an unfamiliar number, but the name, my mother's. She'd somehow found a way around the boundaries my father promised he'd keep. The message was short. Please, Diane, I need to talk to you. It's important. I stared at it until my chest tightened. Daniel touched my shoulder. She broke the agreement. I exhaled shakily. Yeah, she did. Something inside me, something I'd pushed down for years, lifted its head. Anger. Not the hot, chaotic kind. The cold, clean kind that meant clarity. I want closure, I said. Daniel blinked. Closure? I need to look every one of them in the eye and tell them what they did, I said. Not just my dad. All of them. My mom, my brother, and him. I didn't have to say the ex-boyfriend's name. Daniel's expression shifted, protective, conflicted, but supportive. If you're doing this, he said softly, you won't be doing it alone. I kissed his cheek. I know, but I need to do the talking myself. The flight back home. It had been nearly a decade since I left. Walking through the airport in my home country felt surreal, like stepping into an old nightmare wearing someone else's skin. I wasn't the girl they abandoned anymore. I was a mother, a wife, a woman who knew her worth. But the smell of that place, the humidity, the familiar air, it sent a shiver up my spine. I had arranged the meeting in a neutral space, a quiet conference room in a hotel, public enough to be safe, private enough to be honest. My father was already there when I arrived. My mother beside him, visibly shaken, my brother across from them, and at the far end of the table, Liam. He had the nerve to look hopeful. As I stepped inside, every set of eyes turned to me. My mother gasped and covered her mouth. Oh my God, Diane! Her voice cracked. I didn't greet her. I didn't greet any of them. I closed the door and said, let's get this over with. The mother. She stood immediately and rushed toward me like she was in a drama series, hands stretched out, eyes watery. Voice trembling. I'm so sorry, she sobbed. Baby, I am so sorry. I should have believed you. I put my hand up sharply. Don't touch me. She froze. Sit down, I added. The authority in my voice startled even me, but she obeyed. I sat at the head of the table. Daniel sat behind me, silent, a steady shadow. The brother. My brother cleared his throat. Diane, I don't know how to start. I tried contacting you for years, hundreds of times, messaging, calling. I even tried sending money. I thought you were ignoring me. I frowned. I never got a single message. He looked genuinely confused. What? I messaged you constantly. I thought you hated me. My mother stiffened. I turned to her slowly. Mom, I said, did you block my number from the family plan? Her eyes darted away. Mom! Silence. She swallowed. You needed space. I laughed, a bitter, sharp sound. From my own brother? She crumbled again. I didn't know what to do. I leaned back. You didn't know how to love me unless I made you look good. The ex-boyfriend. Then I turned to Liam. He was sweating through his shirt, shifting in his chair. Diane, he started softly. I never stopped loving. I held up a hand. I'm not here for your delusions. He shut up. Why did you do it? I asked. Why did you tell the police I raped you? He stared at his hands. I panicked. You found out I cheated. I was afraid you'd ruin everything for me. I thought if I went to the police first, you'd win? I finished coldly. He nodded shamefully. I was stupid. I regret it every day. I told my therapist. I even told your father. I tried to undo... You didn't try to undo anything, I said. You tried to undo your guilt. He looked up at me with glossy eyes. I haven't dated anyone since, he said, voice trembling. I couldn't. I was waiting. My father cut in sharply. Liam, don't lie. I saw your chat logs. You had multiple partners after Diane left. His face drained of color. Daniel chuckled under his breath. Oh, this is pathetic. Liam's shoulders sagged. He reached for my hand across the table. I moved mine away before he got close. The photos that ended it. Without breaking eye contact, I took out my phone. I opened my album. I turned the screen toward them. A picture of my twins laughing at a picnic. Another of Daniel carrying our daughter on his shoulders. A family photo of us at the beach. The kids' first day of school. My in-laws hugging me at Christmas. My mother choked back a sob. My father wiped tears silently. Even my brother looked away. Liam stared like he was watching a life he was never meant to see. This, I said quietly, is my family. I set the phone down. This is what every one of you threw away when you left me in the dirt. No, my mother whispered desperately. No, Diane, please don't say that. You all had a choice, I said, and you chose to believe a lie. You chose to abandon me, and now you're living with the consequences. The room fell silent. The final decision. I stood. I didn't come for forgiveness, I said. I came for closure. I looked at each of them. You will not contact me again. No calls, no emails, no letters, no surprise visits. My mother began to cry harder. My brother swallowed. Can I still see the kids? One day? I looked at him. He was the only one who hadn't willingly betrayed me. We'll talk, I said, privately. His eyes welled up with relief. Then I turned to Liam. If I ever see you again, I said quietly, I'll file harassment charges. He nodded rapidly, pale as a ghost. I walked toward the door. My father whispered, Diane, will you ever forgive us? I paused. I didn't turn around. No, I said. Then I left. Back home. Real home. On the flight back, Daniel held my hand the entire time. No words, just warmth. When we landed, the kids ran into my arms, their little fingers sticky with candy, their squeals cutting through everything dark in me. I breathed them in. Their innocence, their safety, their love. I knew then that I was done carrying the dead weight of people who let me drown. My family wasn't in that country anymore. My family was here. My husband, my daughter, my son, my in-laws, my life. The one I built myself. The one no one could take from me again.